Hey there, welcome to, or welcome back to Oki Outdoor Adventures. As you saw in the thumbnail, we're going to be talking today about the SLX versus the SLX DC by Shimano. The entire purpose of this video is to provide you with some basic information to allow yourself to make an intelligent decision if you're in the market for an affordable reel in the Shimano SLX series. So, just a little bit of background information. I'm not affiliated with Shimano in any way. I'm not sponsored. I'm not getting any kickback. I'm just a fan of the reels. Second, I decided when I was looking at the specifications that I wanted to take two reels with a similar gear ratio. So in this case, I did the 8:2:1. There's no real basis for that other than I wanted there to be some similarity in the two reels that I was comparing. Now, the two reels that I have in front of me are a different ratio, so keep that in mind as I start showing you those reels here in just a little bit. So I wanted to give you some specifications up front, and then we can talk about what I like and what I may not like about the individual reels, both the standard SLX and the DC. So to kick us off, I'm just going to go SLX DC from a comparative point of view. And these aren't ranked by what I feel are priority or anything like that. No ranking. So the weight of the SLX comes in at 6.9 ounces, where the SLX DC comes in at 7.6. No big deal. The drag at max for both is 11 pounds. They have an equal spool size. If you're using 14-pound mono or 40-pound braid, it's roughly 90 and 105 yards respectively. And the SLX uses the VBS, or the variable braking system, where the DC uses the digital chip. Now, I said that these weren't ranked in priority, but I think it's worth noting that the SLX comes in at $99, where the SLX DC comes in at around $189. You can obviously find deals where you're going to get a little bit better rate, but overall you're spending about 90-ish plus tax dollars for the DC. So to key on some of those specifications that I just mentioned previously, I think first we should talk about the weight. Now, in my mind, that's marginal. When you start talking about just a few ounces or a few tenths of an ounce, that's really not enough in my mind to be a deal breaker. Now, if we were talking about 6 ounces versus 13 ounces as an example, that's considerable enough to make me maybe look at alternatives. In this case, truly isn't a big deal. The drag, while it may seem a little bit on the low end, I haven't had any issues. I fish my 8.2 with 50-pound braid, and I've ripped through some pretty heavy cover, and I haven't had any issues. Been hooked up on some nice fish that pulled drag, but it wasn't so much where I felt like I was losing ground. So the 11 pounds of drag, while not tremendous, is definitely serviceable and does the job. One key item that I did forget to mention, is the bearing system. So the SLX has a 3+1, the DC has a 4+1. That said, again, I don't feel like that insignificant a number, one additional bearing, is going to make a recognizable or measurable difference when it comes to how smooth both of these reels are. And they are both very, very smooth. So, I do think it's important to share that, though. Now, the spool capacity, they're identical. It's not a lot of line, but I don't need a lot of line for what I'm doing, right? Just general casting from the bank or the boat, whatever I'm going with. But if I need to exceed 90 yards or 105 or 140 yards or whatever it may have been, might be doing something wrong. So I think the spool size is definitely adequate for both reels, is ultimately what I'm trying to say. Now let's take a minute very, very quickly and talk about the braking system. And I want to start with the SLX. So I know that this is a little bit beat up, guys, and I know that the lighting is not spectacular, but this has an escape hatch style side plate. So it just pops up and it's connected to a spring. But the variable braking system, there's 6 brakes that you can adjust to really get your cast down to where you feel like you're comfortable. Now, for me, I have 2 brakes on. Anything less than, I've thrown it with 1 brake, but I didn't notice a tremendous amount of casting difference between 1 and 2, so I leave it at 2 to help me prevent some of those wicked backlashes, especially with braid. I'm throwing this 50-pound Cortland, and I don't know, it's been good to me, but occasionally you'll you'll get braid backlashes. I think any of you that fish braid know what I'm talking about. The VBS system is really pretty nice on the SLX. Now with the SLX DC, of course, you have the external braking system, which is ordered numerically 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. 4 is for mono, 3 is for fluoro, 2 is for braid, and 1 is for any line, any condition. I personally don't throw it on setting 1. I typically keep it on 3 because I'm throwing fluoro for my Texas rigs or my crankbaits or whatever really appeals to me at the time. So just a couple more highlights. They both come in the black matte finish with the blue accents. It's very nice. The DC, I did notice, has some chrome accents in addition to the polished blue on the tension knob and the handle nut. So they're very good looking reels, but kind of in that same vein, they tend to pick up a lot of blemishes. So I'm kind of hard on mine, throwing them on the deck of the boat or dropping them on the deck of the boat. They pick up scuffs and scrapes. So I want to try and keep this short. That said, I think what you're probably asking yourself is it worth the additional $90 to have that DC braking system? And the short answer is I can't answer that for you. It's entirely based on preference, but what I can tell you is that it's not necessary to have the DC braking system in order to make long, accurate, successful casts. I do it all the time with the base SLX with no problem, guys. Really, it's about understanding your equipment, tuning it to the specified need that you're working, the bait size, the line size, the condition, and really fine-tuning that. With the variable braking system, you have a lot of options on how you can customize and configure the braking to get the most out of your casts. For me, 2 brakes on is really what I need. I can rip it out pretty well. So looking back, I'm very happy with my DC, but to be able to have 2 of the base SLX models for the same cost, it probably makes more sense knowing now what I do know. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the DCs. You can't beat the sound. So if you've got it in your budget, and I mean, if you just have the money to spend, then by all means, spend the money. You're not going to be disappointed, but it's not necessary to be successful. Neither of the reels are necessary to be successful for that matter, but for the purposes of this comparison, the SLX wins out for me, just based on what I know now and the amount of use that I have for the reel. So let me know in the comments, guys, what your thoughts are on the Shimano DC models versus maybe the base offering for each of the respective reels. We'll have a discussion down in the comments. If you made it to this point in the video, I appreciate each and every one of you and the continued support to the channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, which should be over here, could be over here. I always get it twisted when I'm looking at the camera. And be sure to smash that thumbs up, guys. Let's get the video out, get some exposure on it, and get some discussion going. We'll see you next time on the water.